Varilux lens review. Here it is. Here it is. Short version. Okay, so in 1959, I want to say, Essilor tested Varilux lenses on 46 people. 46 people before the release. 10 of them did terribly. How and why, more of that in a second. But this is published by Essilor themselves, so this is not a question mark. 10 out of 46 people that tried these lenses on did terribly. So if you're not doing well, if you're wondering why you're feeling distorted and getting headaches and stuff, I will explain to you in a moment. Worth knowing, they've sold 700 million of these since 1959. I want to say 1959. 700 million of these lenses were sold based on a trial of 46 people, and from the 46 people, 10 did badly. 4 months later, I want to say about 4 months later, they launched these lenses. So this is the origin story of these is not very impressive. The problem with these is that the blur that you're experiencing, especially if you're moving from single focal plane lenses, like if you're moving from glasses that are just for one distance, right? They don't have all this stuff baked into them, or even bifocals, is no matter what they tell you about AI technology this and fancy lenses that, the blur can be moved, but it cannot be removed. And this gets a little bit complicated. I don't know how far you want to get into this. Minkwitz theorem, if you want to get into the optics of why it's impossible to make a good lens out of this construction, Minkwitz theorem is worth looking up. Optometry and Vision Science is a thing published in 2005. Basically, the unwanted astigmatism in the side grows about twice as fast as the reading power grows down the lens. So you're getting a huge amount of astigmatism increase as you're going down the lens. Not ideal. And then they sell you AI to try to fix a geometry problem. They talk about nanoptics and all this stuff. Physics says you can change where the distortion happens. You can't remove it. It's impossible. So no matter what they sell you, it's built in that you're going to feel distortion. And then if you go, well, this just feels weird, adaptation takes a while. The optometrist says it'll get better. I laugh at this. I will tell you in a minute why. The odds of falling on progressives, wearing progressive lenses compared to bifocal lenses, goes up by a factor of 2. It doubles. Right? Like the odds of you falling down walking wearing these doubles. Not great. And the problem is the part of the lenses that you look through to see to the floor have a distance set to 40 centimeters, right? Because that's the lower part of the lens. It's focused on, or it's set to a reading distance. The floor is 150 centimeters. So the floor is blurry. Like these lenses are not designed to match what the biology intends, how your eyes work, how the brains work, how extraocular muscles intend for your eyes to move as you're looking at objects around you. You're creating a pretty big risk wearing these, walking around in daily life. It's a massive compromise that you get immediate clear vision with close-up and with distance, addressing a problem that could be addressed in other ways, but since this is a lens review, we won't get into that now. Watch how people move when they wear these things. They turn like a robot looking at you, because eventually the lens teaches you to stop moving your eyes. The focal planes keep changing throughout the lens. It's a really bad design compared to a single focal plane lens, right? So Varilux problems is the most ranked Google search term when you look at Varilux. Even though they sold 700 million of these and they tried it on 40 some odd people, 10 of which didn't like them. So if you're wearing these things, or if you're thinking about wearing these things, realize that these were not well tested, realize that optics wise the problem cannot be removed, and realize that these do not function in a three-dimensional space in all the scenarios that you need them to. But those are just the facts. And whoops, I didn't introduce myself. If you've made it this far, my name's Jake Steiner. I've been in vision biology for the last almost 20 years. I help people recover their natural eyesight. That's a topic that's very unsanctioned, not appropriate here. We're just talking about these lenses. Now, if you don't like these, or if you don't necessarily want to get into this, the real answer is slightly inconvenient to replace a huge amount of compromise. Single focal plane lenses, dramatically cheaper. To give you one focal plane, the lens only does one job, right? Like if you need clear distance vision, that's one pair of glasses. If you need clear close-up vision, that's another pair of glasses. That is the solution that gets rid of all of these problems. The question is, right, like if you're completely sedentary and you're just the only time you look down is when you read up close, you can kind of wear these. You're still getting a ton of astigmatism on the sides. Still not ideal. The adaptation removes a lot of how your vision should work, especially as you age. These things are completely not ideal. You don't want your visual performance to go down. You don't want degradation there. You age more quickly on all sorts of levels because your brain removes a lot of the fine motor control allowance, so that you move more carefully, you move more slowly, because your brain knows you can't see clearly to the floor distance. The peripheral vision is all distorted, so it goes, whoa, let's protect this meat box and let's make them move more carefully and more slowly. So this promotes aging throughout, and I don't want to get into this in this video since this is just a lens review. Just suffice it to know that you're taking on a massive amount of compromise for the little bit of benefit of, if I look at a menu, I don't need to switch glasses. Presbyopia, which is the underlying issue, can be solved in other ways, or prevented in other ways, or mitigated to a large extent in other ways. The people who are telling you to buy these lenses, can I say that? Am I allowed to say that? It's a lens subscription, right? Like what is promoted as a treatment is a subscription. The idea is to sell you a thing that you put on, that you're like, wow, this is really cool. They don't tell you that you become dependent on these. They don't tell you the risks. They don't tell you the side effects. They don't tell you anything other than when you say, hey, this feels weird after a while, that you'll get used to it, right? You can, and you might just recognize that the people that sell you this stuff don't explain the level of compromise that you're accepting. Like single focal plane is the answer, right? Like it's okay, fine. Like you sit in a restaurant, you look a little bit more distinguished. When putting on reading glasses, it is cool to be distinguished. Get fancy ones, get cool ones. Learn how to reduce the presbyopia symptom in the first place. That as long as a place is well lit, and as long as its font isn't tiny, and as long as it can move your arm lengths, maybe you can get away without needing these for short-term sort of things, like looking at a menu, right? And if you're gonna spend 2 hours reading a book or browsing on the internet, then switch to dedicated lenses that are just close-up. Your eyes will be happier. Your visual cortex, which is all the processing for this, will be dramatically happier. You're not deteriorating your visual performance, and you're not deteriorating on the performance of you moving through three-dimensional space, right? You won't be told this because the people who sell you this are in the business of selling you this, right? Like you're not walking into a car dealership and they'll be like, yeah, you don't want to buy a hybrid or an electric car because the batteries, it's going to be really expensive. No. Nobody tells you this. And my channel isn't monetized. I don't sell any kind of lenses. My focus is on how do you regain natural function ideally for eyesight. So I'm going to be one of the few people, not fancy, right? Because this is not a big structured, awesome video. I'm going to be one of the few people to tell you the truth, because I don't sell these, but I know lots about how this stuff works, right? That's why Google and YouTube don't always like me that much, but that's just what it is. Okay, it's been going long enough. Plenty more content. If you want to learn more about why and how and all the messy optics of this, link below. I've written a longer article that explains all of this and why ideally you shouldn't use them. That's it for this one. See you in the next one.
Meow, 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 meow.